Number 4. The male genital, symbolized by persons, and the female by landscape. Dream of a woman of a lower class, whose husband is a policeman, reported by B. Tatner. Then someone broke into the house and anxiously called for a policeman. But he went with 2 tramps by mutual consent into a church, to which led a great many stairs. Behind the church there was a mountain, on top of which a dense forest. The policeman was furnished with a helmet, gorget, and a cloak. The 2 vagrants, who went along with the policeman quite peaceably, had tied to their loin-sack-like aprons. A road led from the church to the mountain. This road was overgrown on each side with grass and brushwood, which became thicker and thicker as it reached the height of the mountain, where it spread out into quite a forest. A modified stair dream. To one of my very nervous patients, who was an abstainer, whose fancy was fixed on his mother, and who repeatedly dreamed of climbing stairs accompanied by his mother, I once remarked that moderate masturbation would be less harmful to him than enforced abstinence. This influence provoked the following dream. His piano teacher reproaches him for neglecting his piano playing and for not practicing the etudes of Moscheles and Clementi's Gradus ad Parnassum. In relation to this, he remarked that the Gradus is only a stairway, and that the piano itself is only a stairway as it has a scale. It is correct to say that there is no series of associations which cannot be adapted to the representation of sexual facts. I conclude with the dream of a chemist, a young man who has been trying to give up his habit of masturbation by replacing it with intercourse with women. Preliminary statement. On the day before the dream, he had given a student instruction concerning Grignard's reaction, in which magnesium is to be dissolved in absolutely pure ether under the catalytic influence of iodine. 2 days before, there had been an explosion in the course of the same reaction, in which the investigator had burned his hand. Dream 1. He is to make phenyl magnesium bromide. He sees the apparatus with particular clearness, but he has substituted himself for the magnesium. He is now in a curious swaying attitude. He keeps repeating to himself, "This is the right thing. It is working. My feet are beginning to dissolve, and my knees are getting soft. Then he reaches down and feels for his feet, and meanwhile, he does not know how. He takes his legs out of the crucible, and then again he says to himself, "That cannot be. Yes, it must be so. It has been done correctly." Then he partially awakens and repeats the dream to himself because he wants to tell it to me. He is distinctly afraid of the analysis of the dream. He is much excited during this semi-sleeping state and repeats continually, "Fennel, Fennel." 2. He is in with his whole family at 11:30. He is to be at the Schottentor for a rendezvous with a certain lady, but he does not wake up until 11:30. He says to himself, "It is too late now. When you get there, it will be 12:30. The next instant, he sees the whole family gathered about the table. His mother and the servant girl with the soup tureen in particular clearness. Then he says to himself, "Well, if we are eating already, I certainly can't get away." Analysis. He feels sure that even the first dream contains a reference to the lady whom he is to meet at the rendezvous. The dream was dreamed during the night before the expected meeting. The student to whom he gave the instruction is a particularly unpleasant fellow. He had said to the chemist, "That isn't right," because the magnesium was still unaffected, and the latter answered as though he did not care anything about it. "It certainly isn't right." He himself must be this student. He is as indifferent towards his analysis as the student is towards his synthesis. The he in the dream, however, who accomplishes the operation is myself. How unpleasant he must seem to me with his indifference towards the success achieved. Moreover, he is the material with which the analysis, synthesis, is made, for it is a question of the success of the treatment. The legs in the dream recall an impression of the previous evening. He met a lady at a dancing lesson whom he wished to conquer. He pressed her to him so closely that she once cried out. After he had stopped pressing against her legs, he felt her firm responding pressure against his lower thighs as far as just above his knees, at the place mentioned in the dream. In this situation, then, the woman is the magnesium in the retort, which is at last working. He is feminine towards me, as he is masculine towards the women, If it will work with the woman, the treatment will also work. Feeling and becoming aware of himself in the region of his knees refers to masturbation and corresponds to his fatigue of the previous day. The rendezvous had actually been set for 11:30. His wish to oversleep and to remain with his usual sexual objects, that is, with masturbation, corresponds with his resistance.